The observation deck of station offered a view that never ceased to humble Daniel. The swirling amber clouds of the gas giant below, the distant pinprick of Earth's sun, and the vast emptiness that separated humanity from everything it had once known. But Daniel wasn't there for the view. He was there because his shift started in 5 minutes, and the observation deck needed cleaning before the diplomatic contingent arrived. Daniel pushed his maintenance cart through the pneumatic doors, the wheels squeaking against the polymer floor. At 43, he'd been a janitor on for 7 years, ever since the accident at the terraform processing plant had left him with a mangled leg and a medical discharge. The station didn't ask questions. They needed workers, and he needed to disappear. The diplomatic wing was unusually quiet. Daniel had heard whispers in the cafeteria about the new arrivals, the Lycan delegation, the first of their kind to make peaceful contact with humanity. The Lycans, wolf-like beings from a planet orbiting Proxima Centauri, had technology centuries beyond human comprehension. Their ships could fold space, their medicine could regenerate tissue, and their society operated on principles that human anthropologists were still struggling to decode. Daniel was wiping down the observation window when he heard it, a sound that cut through the station's ambient hum like a blade. It was crying, not the wailing of a human child, but something more primal, more desperate. The sound came from Suite 7, the largest quarters in the diplomatic wing. He hesitated. Protocol was clear. Maintenance staff were to remain invisible, to never interact with visiting dignitaries unless absolutely necessary. But the crying continued, and beneath it, Daniel detected something else, the wet, labored sound of someone struggling to breathe. He knocked, no answer. The crying intensified. Daniel overrode the door with his maintenance clearance, and the sight that greeted him would haunt him forever. The suite was enormous, decorated with bioluminescent panels that cast everything in shades of blue and violet. But Daniel's attention was immediately drawn to the 3 small forms on specialized medical beds in the center of the room. They were Lycan pups, children, he corrected himself, each no larger than a human 5-year-old. Their fur was silver white, their eyes enormous and golden. And they were paralyzed, their small bodies motionless except for the rise and fall of their chests. One of the pups was choking. Daniel didn't think. He crossed the room in 4 strides, his training from his old life, before the accident, before the station, kicking in automatically. The pup's airway was obstructed. Daniel could see the panic in those golden eyes as the small chest heaved uselessly. He tilted the pup's head back, checked the airway, and performed a modified Heimlich maneuver adapted for the Lycan physiology he'd seen in the station's cultural database. A small object, some kind of nutrient capsule, dislodged and skittered across the floor. The pup gasped, coughed, and began to breathe normally. "What are you doing?" The voice was cold, sharp, and utterly inhuman. Daniel turned to find her standing in the doorway. Orla was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her body a blend of lupin grace and humanoid structure. Her fur was darker than her children's, a deep silver that seemed to absorb light. She wore garments that shimmered with embedded technology, and her eyes, those amber eyes, fixed on Daniel with an intensity that made him want to flee. The child was choking," Daniel stammered. "I heard crying, I couldn't." Orla crossed the distance between them in a single fluid motion. For a moment, Daniel was certain she would strike him. Instead, she moved past him to the pup he'd saved, her large, clawed hand gently stroking the small head. "You are the maintenance worker," Orla said. "It wasn't a question. You should not be here." "No, ma'am, I shouldn't. I'm sorry. I'll go." "Wait." Daniel froze. Orla was examining her pup with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this countless times. Satisfied the child was stable, she turned her attention back to Daniel. Her expression was unreadable. "My children," she said slowly, "were injured in an attack on our homeworld, a neurological weapon. Our best physicians can keep them alive, but they cannot restore mobility. They cannot restore independence. Her voice cracked, barely perceptible, but Daniel heard it. I am Queen Matriarch of the Eastern Territories. I command fleets. I negotiate treaties, but I cannot be with them every moment, and when I am not. She gestured to a bank of monitors along the wall. Daniel hadn't noticed them before, dozens of screens showing different angles of the room. Cameras. She'd installed cameras everywhere. I watch, Orla continued. Always, but watching is not the same as being present, and today I was in session with your station commander. I saw my son choking on the monitors. I saw myself running, knowing I would be too late, and then I saw you. Daniel didn't know what to say. Why did you help him? Orla asked. Because he needed help. You could have lost your position, violated protocol. Humans and Lycans are not yet comfortable with each other. He's a kid, Daniel said simply. Protocol doesn't matter when a kid can't breathe. Something shifted in Orla's expression. She studied Daniel for a long moment, then gestured to a seat. Sit, please. Daniel sat confused. I have been searching for a solution, Orla said. Our technology can sustain my children, but it cannot heal them. Not yet. Human physicians claim they are close to breakthroughs in neural regeneration, but close may mean decades. In the meantime, my children need more than machines. They need presence. They need someone who will respond not because it is their function, but because they care. Your Majesty, I'm not qualified. You are a father. Again, not a question. Orla tapped something on her wrist and a holographic display appeared. It showed Daniel's personnel file, but also other information that should have been sealed. His daughter, Emma, the custody battle after the accident, the years of sending money he couldn't afford, trying to maintain a connection across light years. How did you? I am Queen Matriarch, Orla said softly, and I am desperate. I am asking you, Daniel Chen, to be what I cannot present, to care for my children when I must attend to matters of state, not as a nurse, we have those, but as someone who sees them as children first, patients second. I'm a janitor. I don't have medical training. You saved my son's life with maintenance clearance and instinct. You have something our advanced technology lacks: humanity, compassion, the willingness to break protocol for a child's sake. She paused. I can offer you compensation, access to Lycan medical technology, perhaps even treatment for your leg. Daniel looked at the 3 small forms on their beds. The one he'd saved was watching him now, those golden eyes curious and alert. The pup made a small sound, not crying, but something almost like a purr. He thought of Emma, of all the moments he'd missed, of the father he'd failed to be. I don't want payment, Daniel said quietly, but I have a condition. Orla's ears pricked forward. Name it. You turn off the cameras, at least sometimes. You can't live your whole life watching through screens, afraid of missing something. Trust has to start somewhere. For the first time, Orla's fierce composure cracked. Her eyes glistened. You ask me to trust a human I met minutes ago with my children's lives. No, Daniel said. I'm asking you to trust yourself, to know that you've made the right choice, and to give yourself permission to not be everywhere at once. The Queen Matriarch of the Eastern Territories, commander of fleets and negotiator of treaties, sat down heavily on the edge of one of the medical beds. She placed her hand on her daughter's still form. Very well, she said finally. But Daniel Chen, if you betray this trust, no distance in this universe will protect you. Understood, Your Majesty. Orla smiled then, a very wolf-like expression. When we are here, you will call me Orla. They are Kale, Lissa, and Finn. They like stories. Human stories especially. They have been listening to your old Earth tales on the station's database. Daniel felt something unlock in his chest, something that had been frozen since the accident, since losing Emma, since losing himself. I know a lot of stories, he said. 6 months later, Station Kepler 442 Medical Wing reported a breakthrough. The Liking pups had begun showing signs of neural regeneration, something previously thought impossible with their condition. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead researcher, noted an anomaly in her report. The improvement correlates not with any specific treatment, but with increased environmental enrichment and emotional engagement. Further study required. But Orla knew the truth. It wasn't the medicine. It was the stories, the laughter, the presence of someone who saw her children as children, not as patients or diplomatic complications. It was Daniel, reading them tales of Earth while Orla attended summit meetings, knowing, truly knowing, that they were safe. Not because she was watching through cameras, but because she'd learned to trust. And late at night, when Daniel's shift ended, he would call Emma. The conversations were still awkward, still rebuilding, but they were happening. Sometimes healing required advanced technology and brilliant physicians. Sometimes it required something simpler, someone who cared enough to break protocol, and someone brave enough to trust them. In the vast emptiness between stars, in a station where species learned to coexist, a janitor and a queen had discovered something neither thought possible, that the distance between strangers was smaller than anyone imagined, measured not in light years but in moments of trust. And three small pups, watching the amber clouds swirl below, slowly began to move again.